We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Friday. We're moving through the week. Plenty of stuff happening out there, and we're very fortunate to have another guest on the show. It's Dan. Yesterday we had Old Soul. That's always a good show. But Dan is with us today, and we're going to talk about some of the stuff that's going on in the world and some of the stuff that came out yesterday, which I'm finding kind of interesting. First of all, Dan, thanks for joining us again on the Rational Boomer podcast. I appreciate it.
It was my pleasure.
What have you been up to? Just hanging out, or
Uh,
what do you got going?
I've been with school. It's been a real bitch.
You're
Um,
back in school now,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
I saw a new term. I got 2 more weeks left before Christmas vacation.
and what are you taking?
Um, Digital filmmaking.
Oh, okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'm going for my bachelor. I'll graduate in 2026.
Okay,
Uh,
you want to
the
be a
film has
film?
always been film has always been my passion.
Well, you might as well do it then.
Yeah. You know, I know this is a bit off topic, but um
There is no off topic on this show. We go on whatever fucking topic we want.
one of my assignments I get due next year is make a non-narrative film, a documentary.
Non-narrator.
Non-narrative, a documentary.
So you have a documentary, but no narrator.
Yeah, it's called non-narrative.
Okay, okay. Tell me about that.
And I think what I'll end up doing for that film is probably for my documentary class is I've already decided what I'd like to do is, if I can get away with it, is do something about the Constitution.
Oh, interesting.
You know,
How do you do that without a narrator, though? I don't. I'm not a filmmaker, so I don't know how to fucking do this shit.
it's like a documentary, like Michael Moore stuff.
Right. But you got to have somebody tell us what the fuck's going on, don't you?
Well, yeah. But you know, um, you know,
I mean, are you going to have like dramatizations and actors acting stuff out, or
um,
how are you going to tell the story?
no, it's like okay, you have like narrative films which is scripted, and then
Right?
non-narrative film which is non-scripted.
Oh, okay. I got
So
you. So it's basically like taking bits and not necessarily on this topic, but news clips and putting them together and arranging them in
yeah,
such a way
yeah, yeah,
where they tell a
yeah.
story. Okay,
Yeah,
I got you.
what I'd like to end up doing is something on the Constitution about updating it for the 21st century.
Well, that's an interesting thing that you mentioned, updating the Constitution. I mean, we hear a lot about Republicans who are originalists, the original
Uh-huh.
Constitution, just the way it's written. And with the capability of adding amendments and such, I don't know that our forefathers really intended us to write this in granite and stick with it. I mean, they had no way to know how things were going to change, like weapons and all this other stuff. Um, Thomas Jefferson did say at one point we should have, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't know Tom and we didn't talk, but um, he said something about having a revolution every 20 years. And what it was suggesting at that point was basically that, times change and people get a little corrupt when they've been in power too long. So we need a little upheaval, a little adjustment, a little change. And to me, that says, maybe update the Constitution. And that's exactly what you're suggesting.
Exactly. Yeah, I was going to call it Constitution 2.0, updating the Constitution for the 21st century.
I like it. It's an interesting idea. I've never seen anybody do that before. You may piss off some people, but look who's telling you that. A guy who makes a living off pissing off people. So, um, no, I think our Constitution does at least need some clarification. I mean, like the Second Amendment, this whole thing about bearing arms and well-regulated militias, people seem to read different things into it. And if we could get a clarification on it, it would be much better. But then it's a matter of who do we get to do that clarification? Politicians? We don't like those motherfuckers anyway.
Oh, you're right. And that's what I was going to do my uh, documentary on. When the time came next year.
Well, when you're ready to do that, let us know. And when you get it done, I'm sure we'd all like to see it. I know I would like to see it. I'm open. I'm always open for new ideas, especially when it comes to the Constitution.
Okay. Well, it won't be till next year. You know.
Well, I'm not going anywhere, so let me know. um, you know,
I don't even think it's until June until I gotta take that until it takes place.
okay, okay.
So,
Have you been paying attention to this Rudy Giuliani situation? This lawsuit down in Georgia?
to be honest, I've been so busy with my schooling. I've been in
Well,
and out with Trump as it is.
yeah. Well, I'll tell you about for the folks listening and for your sake, Rudy Giuliani is in the middle of a lawsuit in Georgia. It's a defamation of character case brought against him by Shay
When is he
Moss.
not?
Well, I'm sorry.
When is he not?
Well, it was brought by
It seems like he's always in something.
yeah, but yeah, he's always involved in something. But he's got two big issues in Georgia with the criminal case coming up and this lawsuit. Lawsuit was brought by Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman, the mother and daughter who were the election workers in Georgia. And of course, Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani claimed that they were adjusting the votes and doing all kinds of criminal shit, which wasn't true. And and these poor women got their life turned upside down. They were stalked. They were threatened. They've spent time in hiding just because these Trump fucks going after them. And in the particular case that's going on, Rudy Giuliani has already lost the case. They've already decided that he's liable for defamation of character. Now we're just waiting to find out if what he's going to have to pay. And he could be expected to pay as much as $40 million. And I got to tell you, I don't know for sure, but I'm thinking Rudy doesn't have $40 million. So this could be interesting. But where we are right now is both sides have rested, the prosecution and the defense. Uh, and now they're in the process of trying to figure out what Rudy's going to have to pay. So that's something that could crop up at any moment, maybe later today. Who the hell knows? But the funny thing about it is that while they go off and they're deliberating over what they're going to charge him, Rudy's still out there fucking defaming the two ladies again. He said what he did say was Thursday he was going to testify and that everything he said was true, even though he already lost. And when I get on the stand, people will realize everything I said was true. Well, of course, he pussed out. He didn't go on the stand. He chose not to because I think his lawyers thought discretion is the better part of valor here. So he didn't go on the stand. It's over. We're waiting to see what he's going to get hit with. There's no question he's going to get hit with something. You feeling sorry for Rudy at all? Because he's going to be broke, maybe go to jail when Fonnie Willis takes after him. It's not a good time for Rudy right now.
This might seem heartless, but I don't really feel sorry for any of them.
No, no. And I was being sarcastic. I don't feel sorry for them either. It's not heartless. It's just common sense.
they brought this on themselves.
Well, don't you find it funny though that even when it's proven that they're wrong or lying, they still double down and triple down. I don't get that. I don't know what there is to be gained from that. You've already lost, and you still commit to the lie. I mean, is there ever a point when you just own up to the fact? Yeah, I fucked up. Yeah, I lied. Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani will not do it. I don't know if it's just because they're narcissists or what the fuck is going on.
You know, I, it's I know. I mean, with me, I'll tell you, I'm a narcissist when it comes to my movies.
Well, I don't know that you can be a narcissist on specific topics. You either are a narcissist or not a narcissist. I don't think you're a narcissist. Looking at you, I know some narcissists. You're not a narcissist.
But even well, that may or may not be true.
Oh, I just told you it's true. So you don't have to worry about that. I'm the fucking narcissist, apparently.
I do know that
Do you think it's I think it's pretty amazing that somebody like Rudy Giuliani went to the top of the heap. He was the mayor of New York. He was a prosecutor. He was well thought of. You know, people revered him. And he was old enough where he could have just said, you know, I'm going to retire, take my money, and go to an island someplace. But he chose not to do that. He chose instead to get behind Donald Trump. Now, he's smart enough to know that everything he was doing was wrong. I just believe that he saw that Donald Trump had some power. And even though he knew he was wrong, he thought he could get away with something. And now, as we look at it, he fucked up.
yeah, you know, I mean, be a big enough man to admit that you fucked up and take your take your medicine now. You know,
Right, right.
I mean,
I will tell you this that you know, being a man of being married 40 years, a lot of times men have a tough time admitting they fucked up. I have the great fortune of having a wife to point out that I fucked up, so then I know when to admit to it. It works out perfectly.
you know, I saw your podcast about um Donald Trump wanting to be a dictator,
Right, right.
and you know, don't get me wrong. I have
Oh, here it
nothing.
comes.
I have nothing against a dictatorship,
Yeah.
but if you're going to be a dictator or want to be a dictator, be a dictator like Juan Perón was. He was a dictator for the people.
Yeah. True.
You know, don't be a dictator like Vladimir Putin, who was only out for himself.
Well, you know, dictators do well for a while, but they all seem to end up the same way. Like Mussolini hanging from a light pole, dead. You know, they live by the sword, they die by the sword. I
Yeah,
don't I don't know what the draw is. You know, I read something yesterday that was kind of interesting. Donald Trump is now being asked about this dictator comment. And of course, Donald Trump isn't denying it. He's embracing it. Yeah, I could be a dictator. He won't say he won't be a dictator, but he's not going full in. I saw an interview. Actually, I read an interview where somebody was talking to a Trump fan and they asked them about Donald Trump being a dictator. And they said, oh, I think it's a good idea. I think that may be what America needs. Hell, when I was young, I thought my parents were a dictator. I thought my kids think I'm a dictator, so it'd be great for him to be a dictator. And I'm thinking to myself, do you even know what the fucking term dictator means? I mean, it's not a misshapen potato. It's a fucking ruthless person running a country, killing people. I mean, who
Yeah.
dresses these people in the morning? Who dresses and feeds them? Because they're obviously absolutely ignorant. And people have to understand that we've got dumb people trying to drag us down a rabbit hole. Fuck them.
Well, like I said, I mean, there are two forms of dictators. That you have ones that are actually for the people, like Ron Perón was, and then you have the kind who are like the Vladimir Putins,
You know,
who would slit your throat for a nickel.
right? I don't know enough about Juan Perón to even debate anybody on that issue. I'm sure Juan had some negative sides too, but I don't know because I don't know much about him. But
Well, but you gotta remember, Ron Perón also had Ava Perón to balance his ego, ego megalomaniac out.
right, well, that's true. That's true. But my point is if you had a room full of dictators, what percentage would be good guys? I'm thinking almost none of them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're saying Juan Perón was a good dictator, but only because his wife was kicking his ass. If she hadn't been there, would he have been a good dictator? Who knows?
Uh, Probably not.
No, no, no.
He probably would have gone away with. He probably would have um, gone away with a lot more shit. But because he had Ava Perón, you know,
Well, as a man, I think I can speak to this with some authority. Um, and this isn't all men, of course, but there are a fair amount of men that are insecure, but also have big egos. So they have to exercise that ego in order to cover up for that insecurity that they have. And some people get full of themselves, like a Donald Trump. And it comes down to the point where they don't really care about anything other than enriching themselves. That's why one would become a dictator anyway. They want total control, which is what a narcissist wants to do, and they want everything coming their way. The problem with it is like I mentioned, Mussolini or some of these other dictators that didn't end well. Ego is the one thing that will take down all men. Maybe not immediately, maybe not even over the long haul, but ultimately, an excessive ego will destroy any man that embodies that excessive ego. And unfortunately, these egos are so big you can't tell them that, you can't warn them that they have to go down the same path, have a heyday, and then spiral, and then crash, and then ultimately be gone. Whether they die or just disappear, I don't know. And that's the route that Donald Trump is on. He's in the spiral, very close to crashing, and he will either go into a demise, he'll demise, or he'll run away. One of the two. That's the only options left for him at this point.
Napoleon Bonaparte had a massive ego for a little man.
I'm sorry.
Napoleon Bonaparte had a massive ego for such a little man.
Yeah. How do you end up
He was exiled to an island.
to an island? Right. Yeah. That movie too. I've been wanting to see that movie. Everybody
So
tells me
do I.
everybody tells me it's a shitty movie, which disappoints me because I like Joaquin Phoenix. But if it's a shitty movie, I'm not going to waste the money and the time to sit there and watch it.
I'm gonna wait for it to hit Apple TV.
Yeah, probably a good idea. Probably a good
I'm not gonna
idea.
waste my I'm not gonna waste my money on a movie. I'll just wait till it hits Apple TV.
Yeah, that's probably a good idea. Now, one of the things, and I'm curious as to what you think about this. I keep hearing a lot of people. I mean, I've got people that write me every day about something that happens in the news. Oh, I'm nervous about this. This is going to be terrible. Then I got to talk them off the fucking ledge. I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't know what I'm doing. All I can tell you is what I know. But there's a lot of people concerned that somehow Donald Trump will run the table, not be held accountable, and then ultimately be elected president. I don't see any pathway to that. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm almost sure it's not going to happen. But your thoughts on that? Do you see any way that we come out of this looking badly with Donald Trump still in some kind of power and still free?
All I can say is the way the Republicans are setting it up is they're learning from the mistakes. And right now,
Do you really think the
in the
Republicans
House,
are learning anything from their mistakes? Because they keep making mistakes. When does the point come when they actually do something right, where they've learned something?
right now in the House, they're setting up the House like a chessboard. So they can make sure that in 2024, if they lose, that's why they want McCarthy out of the office.
How are they setting this up? What are they setting it up like, and what are they setting it up for?
Because if Trump is the forerunner presidential candidate, which it looks like he will be,
Mm-hmm.
they can go back and say if he loses, they can say, "Oh, election interference." And because Trump appointed all the Supreme Court justices, and they have Speaker Mike Johnson, who's a MAGA Republican,
Yeah.
and the majority of the House is MAGA Republicans now. They can say, "Oh well, we're gonna
Oh,
um."
wait a minute here. Now, um, let me ask you this first. Do you think after the 2024 election, Republicans will still be in the majority? I mean, they have a slim majority as it is. Do you think after the 2024 election that the Republicans will have the majority in the House?
Unfortunately, I think so.
How does that happen? I just I don't see any way that happens. I think they'll have a tougher time in the Senate, but they'll still keep the Senate too. But the House, I mean, they only have a 3 seat margin. And here's the problem. They also have to deal with this whole Roe v. Wade thing. The Republicans have gotten a lot of bad juju from being associated with this. Now we have what's going on down in Texas with this Katie Cox. Now all of a sudden the Republicans don't want to talk about it. They realize it's bad for the election, but they won't let it go. I just don't see any way at all that the Democrats don't have the majority in the House. It just makes no sense to me. They're doing nothing to gain votes. They're doing nothing to gain support.
Because, and I'll tell you something, the Democrats don't know how to play derby,
Well, yeah, that's true, but I
and
think
the
that
Republicans do.
yeah, but I think the Democrats are starting to get a little grittier now after dealing with what they deal with. And you know, the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter if they play dirty or not. It's a matter of how many people vote. And I think we're going to have an unprecedented amount of people voting. And I just this is what I think, and you can debate me on this if you'd like. I personally think that in 2024 there's going to be a blue wave. Um, Joe Biden or whoever the Democratic candidate is for the presidency will win easily. Um, the Democrats will take control of the House, they'll take control of the Senate, and then the Republican parties will finally be back on their heels and they'll have to decide, do we keep failing or do we change everything? And they're going to have to
Hey,
change everything.
I hope you are right. I really do.
Well, I
Because
just told you I'm right.
I think I think it would be a good idea for the Republicans to be knocked on their asses and be humbled.
Why are you afraid that they won't be, though? I mean, what is it that they have that might keep them on the pedestal?
You know,
And I'm not trying to pick on you about this, but there's a lot of people who think like you, and I'm trying to figure out where that's coming from.
it's just a gut feeling I have. I've been a Republican for too long, and I just
Well, do you think that a lot of this stuff that we're hearing is just bullshit Republican rhetoric that they throw in the narrative? I mean, I'll get a lot of Democratic people come up to me and say, "Oh, I heard this. This is terrible." And I said, "Where did you hear that from?" And nobody seems to know where they hear it from. But I can tell you, you said the Republicans fight dirty, and they do. One of the
but
ways they
on
do is
that
by controlling the narrative. And we as Democrats have to sit back and say, we got to stop listening to the bullshit because there's too much bullshit out there and none of it has any basis in fact.
that could very well be. You know, the Republicans are great for trying to control the narrative, especially since Trump entered the political arena.
Well, how do you feel now? You say you've been a Republican for so long. Um, Everything that is Republican now is an utter failure. They can't win for anything. They
Oh, you know, I'm embarrassed to admit I was ever a Republican.
Are you still Republican?
No, no, no.
Let me ask you this: is there a Republican Party at all anymore?
I don't think so. I think what the Republicans used to stand for is gone. I think what they are now is a bunch of. Do you remember the Energizer Bunny?
I'm sorry.
Do you remember the Energizer Bunny?
Yeah, yeah, the Energizer
That's
Bunny.
what the that's what they it's like that. They just keep on going and going and going, but there's no
No direction.
objective. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
no
or
direction.
objective.
Yeah.
Um, so what do you think happens to the Republican Party? Say I'm right, and I'm betting on me here. But say I'm right, and there's a blue wave, and the Republicans just get decimated in the House, the Senate, and in the presidency. What happens then? Do they just fade away and die, or do they try to regroup and come up with some other kind of identity? And who would be the leader of that group, who whatever it is?
Well, I'd like to see a new party being formed.
A whole
Uh,
brand new party.
yeah,
You're almost going to have to do that because of whatever the Republican Party has been. They're so tainted right now. Just the term Republican is a
it's
negative
just a
epithet.
blight.
Yeah,
It's blight.
I mean, do you see somebody like Liz Cheney, Adam Kinzinger, reemerging and trying to piece together a normal Republican Party that they once had? I mean, that seems like the only option is to try to go back to where they were. As much as I don't like those folks, and I wouldn't vote for Cheney or Kinzinger, at least it's better than the dumpster fire they have now.
I'd like to see someone with new ideas,
Is it
uh, a new someone a progressive Republican emerge.
Progressive Republican. When you say
Yeah.
progressive Republican, when I hear progressive, I think of the progressive Democrats. I can't imagine a Republican going that way. Let me ask you this. If you were to, is there somebody out there right now that is a Republican or could be a Republican that you feel good about that could be the leader of a new Republican Party, should there be one?
Well,
No, I can't think of one either. Except maybe Liz Cheney.
I don't like Liz Cheney either, but
You like Liz Cheney?
no, I don't. I
Okay.
don't.
Why don't you like
Uh,
her? Why don't you like Liz Cheney? I'm not setting you up here. I'm just curious. Why?
I'm just not a fan of her. I just for different reasons.
I mean, she seems to be the other than the fact other than the fact that she's the spawn of the actual devil. That's a negative, but she seems more in line with the stereotypical conservative Republican that we once knew.
You know, even though I'm getting my plan on getting my bachelor's in filmmaking,
Right?
I don't plan on stopping there. I eventually would like to get into politics afterwards. So, you know, uh,
So you're kind of seeing what's happening now, and you're not confident that the Republicans will be taken to task and essentially eradicated. You think they still have a chance to pull some shit off? I mean, these motherfuckers can't get together for a vote on anything. They can't put together a budget. They can't agree with themselves. I think that's the worst part of the Republican Party right now. If they had any unity, they might be able to do some damage, but they can't agree with themselves.
no, they can't. No.
So their slim majority is no majority now because they can't get anything done without the help of the Democrats. Just seeing that and seeing that they have accomplished nothing since getting the majority, that's got to
And
take a hit when the election comes along.
now they want to impeach Joe Biden for what?
Well, that's a good
John
point.
John Johnson says, "Oh, this isn't political bullshit." The only reason you want to impeach Biden is because you think that he has something to do with the impeachment of Donald Trump. Give me a break.
Well, I don't even think it's that. The problem with the Republicans right now, they need to somehow discount, discredit, or stain Joe Biden. And they're having a hard time doing it. They have to go back in time and do this Hunter Biden bullshit, which is ridiculous. There's nothing to it. They had all the opportunity to find something back when Donald Trump was president. They couldn't find it. They set it aside. Now they get to this point and they have to go back there. Joe Biden's been in politics for 50 years. He's been president for going on 3 years or something. And
Yeah,
that's all they can find on this guy. The reason why they're impeaching Joe Biden right now is it's kind of tit for tat. They're still butthurt about the Democrats impeaching Donald Trump. So what they want to try to do is impeach Joe Biden. So when it comes to the election, and say, "Oh yeah, well Donald Trump was impeached, but so was Joe Biden." That's a pretty lame attempt to try to um, kind of a false equivalency. But that's how desperate these fucks are. They've really got nothing. All they can really do is try to destroy uh, Biden's name or reputation. And every day, Biden's name and reputation gets fucking better. This is what I'm saying. The Republicans, fail at every turn. I don't know how anybody could have any confidence of them accomplishing anything, given what we've seen.
That's, I mean, I'm so embarrassed I even once belonged to that party.
I'll tell you what, I'll tell you what, Dan, I'm embarrassed for you. I tell you what, Dan, we're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
Okay.
We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. We have listener Dan with us today. I want to give you a heads up too. Ed will be on the show tomorrow. I know a lot of people ask about Ed. We try to get him on every week or so. He's a guy I've known for years, worked with for years. So it's really a comfortable situation when we're on the air together because we kind of know how each other works and it works out well. But he will be on the show tomorrow. I'll record it later today. And then right after midnight, it'll be released to the public. So I've got Dan with me here today, and I wanted to talk about something that's going on, and I've talked about it before, but it's worth getting maybe your insights about this. We know we have this case, this election interference case in Washington, D.C. Judge Chutkan is presiding. Jack Smith brought this case to Washington, D.C. Now, Donald Trump comes out and he says, well, I have absolute immunity because I was a former president. We've gone through this a couple times and nobody has agreed with Donald Trump. He's lost every time, but nonetheless, he takes it to Chutkan and Chutkan says, bullshit, fuck you, you're going on trial March 4th. Well, of course, Donald Trump then appeals to the appellate court. Jack Smith kind of games the situation, and this is pissing off the Republicans. This is exactly what the Republicans kind of thing they would do. But instead of going to the appellate court, Jack Smith goes to the Supreme Court and said, fuck it, it's going to end up here anyway. Can you give us a decision and can you do it quickly? And they agreed to it. And in fact, they told Donald Trump, you have to have your proposal, your motions in by December 20th, which is 5 days away. What was your gut reaction when you heard that Jack Smith went to the Supreme Court instead of the appellate court? Did you like that or were you nervous about that?
I like that. I said, I like Jack Smith, to be honest. I think Jack Smith's got some balls. And I said, he's not afraid of Donald Trump.
What do
And
you
he
think the
won't
Supreme
people.
what do you think the Supreme Court's going to do with that though? I mean, you were talking earlier about the Supreme Court and being stacked with Trump fans, and that's true. But with this particular decision, how do you think they'll react to that?
Well, the one thing is you gotta remember the Supreme Court likes its power. And
Yeah,
if Donald Trump keeps talking about being a dictator,
right,
the Supreme Court dictators have no use for judges.
right, exactly.
And so that might weigh heavily against him
Well,
because
and
the judges like the Supreme Court likes the power.
they like the power, and they know if a dictator, whatever situation comes in, it's not going to be beneficial to them. And actually, Donald Trump is talking like he's expecting to lose to the Supreme Court. Here's another aspect of first of all, this whole proposal that Donald Trump is offering is thin at best. There's no basis in law for it. No other judge has even listened to it. It's not an issue. I'm saying the Supreme Court will basically say, yeah, we're not even fucking with this. But here's the big problem that Donald Trump isn't thinking about because he only thinks about himself and he thinks about himself now. He doesn't think ahead. If the Supreme Court says, okay, you have absolute immunity, Donald Trump, because you were a former president. Anything you did as a president, you have total immunity. You know what the big problem with that is, Dan? If that
They
is
just put
true,
them above the law.
what?
They just put them above the law.
But you know what problem it causes for the Supreme Court and for the Republicans? If
What?
Donald Trump has immunity, Joe Biden now has immunity. If Joe Biden has
Exactly.
immunity, he can go into the Supreme Court and say, "You're all motherfucking fired. We're going to get some new people in here." He could say, "We're not even going to have the 2024 election. Fuck it. I'm staying." So it's absolutely ridiculous to think that Donald Trump might get a pass from the Supreme Court. They're already in a shitstorm. That would cause incredible upheaval in this country. I think the moment Donald Trump is not held accountable, then we have to worry about some violence. And it's not going to be from the Republicans, it's going to be from the Democratic side. So I don't think there's any way the Supreme Court does anything but comes back and said, we don't want to listen to this. They don't even want to wade into that because it's going to be too much trouble.
I think they should have stayed out of what Bill Bruce is raid. I don't think they had the business getting involved in that.
Well, that's true. That's true. But did you hear what else happened? After Jack Smith asked them to expedite the decision from the Supreme Court, and they hadn't even gotten it yet. The appellate court came back and says, "Oh yeah, 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 we'll hurry up too." So we're going to get some quick action from the appellate court and the Supreme Court. And the big problem for Donald Trump is when those decisions come back, presuming that they are against Donald Trump, he's done. He's got no place to go. He's got no more delays. He's gone to the top of the heap, and he can't fucking. All his ploys have failed, and he's got nowhere to go. And then that's when you're going to see Donald Trump losing his shit because he'll know for certain that he's done, and he won't know what to do with that.
It can't happen to a nicer guy.
Well, that's true. That's true. I mean, I don't, over the next year, Donald Trump is going to go through so many things. You mentioned that you think he's going to be the nominee. I personally don't think he's going to be the nominee. And here's why. Starting in March, presumably he's going to court in Washington, D.C. Now, people are saying, well, with these appeals and stuff, it could be delayed. That court case could be delayed from March 4th, but it's not going to be months and months. It might be days or weeks or a couple weeks or 3 weeks. It could be delayed, but it's not going to be delayed by a whole lot. It's just not going to happen. Um, so he is going to get convicted before the election. He's got that March thing. He's got E. Jean Carroll. He's got uh, Georgia in May. From March until the election, he's going to be in court almost every day. And guess what? He doesn't have the option of go or not go. In criminal cases, he's got to be in court every day there's court. How the fuck is he going to run a campaign? Where is he going to get the money from? It's crazy.
Well, the Trump effect are still sending him money. So,
Yeah, I don't know
I
that there's
mean,
enough money left for him out there.
I was watching the news the other day, and they were questioning one of these idiots, and she said she spent over $1 million on his merchandise. For Christ's sake, $1 million.
I are you telling
You
me
know,
one of these people with the red MAGA hats and the bib overall jeans is trying to convince us that they spent $1 million? I find that hard to imagine.
I'm thinking, are you serious? You spent $1 million on this bullshit stuff when you have necessities out there.
Well, I'm all for it. If he wants to drain all his followers of all their money, good luck, motherfucker. Because guess what? Then you're on welfare. Then you're a socialist. Good luck with that, bitches.
You know, and I just thought it was ridiculous that they were spending that kind of money on merchandising.
Yeah, I don't believe that anybody's spending any of these Trump fuckers spending. They don't have $1 million. Take a look at these fucks at these things. They're dopes. How would they have ever earned $1 million? Now, let's talk about money. We've got the court case in New York, the civil lawsuit. Donald Trump can't go to jail for this one, but I think this might be the most devastating case because it's literally going to destroy everything that Donald Trump thinks he is: wealthy, powerful, owns property, has prestige. This case is going to probably end that for him. And we are close right now because Letitia James has rested her case. The defense has rested their case. I think there's a couple of rebuttal witnesses coming up sometime in the next couple of weeks. But after that, the guy that Donald Trump has pounded on for the last 3 or 4 months, Judge Engeron, is going to be the only one to choose how much Donald Trump is going to pay.
Yeah, and that you think about it's really stupid. You're going to antagonize the man who decides your fate. Come on,
Exactly.
how much? How much? Come on, use a brain for Christ's sake.
Yeah, but it's Donald Trump. See, Donald Trump thinks he's all powerful and he can bully anybody. You would think he'd learn a lesson after the last several times when the bullying doesn't work, but it's so ingrained in his psyche that he can't help it. It's automatic for him to try to bully somebody. Let's scare the judge into setting me free. Well, you've already been found liable for the fraud. We're just trying to figure out how much you're going to pay. And if you think this judge is going to go easy on you because he likes you, sorry, Don. He doesn't like you, and nobody fucking likes you.
Yeah, I heard somewhere that Donald Trump has been hauled into court more times than any other businessman.
Oh, yeah, I don't doubt that. I mean, we're seeing all these court cases now, but this ain't nothing over his lifetime. See, that was part of Donald Trump's strategy. He had more money than the people he was up against, so he'd take them to court, drain them of all their money, and win by default. Unfortunately, you can't do that with the U.S. government. You don't have more money than the U.S. government. You don't have more time than the U.S. government. They're going to grind you into a fucking oil spot. And that's what they're doing to Donald Trump.
Yeah,
Now, there's something else that people are talking about with this lawsuit. It always amazes me how, whenever I talk about this stuff on TikTok or in the podcast, people will say, oh, yeah, but, or Donald will just do this. It's this fatalistic attitude that they all have that somehow Donald Trump is going to win in the long run. He's not, and he hasn't been winning. But people will say to me, okay, so let's say the judge says, okay, you're fined for 250 or $500 million. People are saying to me, well, he'll just appeal it and he'll drag it out for 10 years. Now, what people don't understand is he can do that. He can appeal it. He can drag it out as long as he wants. However, he cannot appeal it unless he puts the money he's been fined in escrow. That means Donald Trump has to come up with the money before he can set up an appeal, which means he either has the cash or he has to liquidate some of his property or his property is just fucking taken away. But he can't just ride this out for 10 years and not pay it. He's got to pay whatever the judge says he has to pay.
yeah.
Do you think he can come up with $250 million? I don't think so.
Even if he liquidates his assets, he still won't have it because he has to pay E.G. Carroll.
Well, yeah, he has to pay Eugene Carroll. He has to pay his legal fees and all this stuff. I
Yeah, but
mean,
he's not known for paying legal fees.
well, he is, and his lawyers know that. That's why most of them have gotten it up front. They'd be, if anybody's billing Donald Trump at this point and they're lawyers, I wouldn't hire that dumbass lawyer because they got to be idiots. I mean, the
Yeah,
only reason lawyers take cases is to make money or get publicity. In this case, if they're not making money, they're also getting shitty publicity. They're looking like jokes out there doing Donald Trump's bidding. They look like they're idiots. And frankly, Donald Trump has pretty much scraped the bottom of the barrel to get the lawyers he has. Those are the only fucks that will actually work for him.
Yeah.
So, so what I'm saying is that uh, after this case, and he's drained of all his money, potentially his property. See, that's the one thing. Donnie carries a pretty heavy debt load on his property. So if he's got $100 million building, but he owes 80 million on it, he's only going to get credit for 20 million. His entire portfolio of properties might not be enough to cover what he's going to owe the state of New York.
Hmm.
Donnie's in trouble, and you can see he's scared right
Yeah.
now. He's freaking out. He's still thinking he can win this case, but the case is already over. It's just about how badly he's going to get spanked. And frankly, you better wind up pretty high because he's got a pretty thick and full diaper on. It's going to take some heat to make him feel the pain.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, yeah.
Well, can a 78-year-old man take this kind of pressure? A 78-year-old man who's not healthy mentally or physically. I mean, men that age in that condition have passed on for less stress than that. Unless he's just so mentally out of it, he just doesn't grasp how bad it is for him. This has got to be immense pressure. This has got to be horrible for him because he's lived off his reputation and his image all his life, and he's going to end his life as little more than a pariah in this country. And that is going to destroy him mentally, emotionally, intellectually. All he really cares about is his image, and his image is shot right now, but it'll be done after these court cases wrap up.
I think Donald Trump is, yeah, it's, all right. Donald Trump is pretty much done for
He's
business wise.
he's not used to losing because somebody
Well, if
always
his
fails.
father, if his father, Fred Trump, had done his job and whooped his ass when he was younger, like he was supposed to, maybe he wouldn't be acting this way now.
Absolutely. I mean, the way he was raised is part and parcel to who he is today. He was a spoiled child. Dad gave him money, bailed him out every time there was trouble, and now he thinks somebody's going to bail him out. Even before he was president, after Dad was dead, the Russians bailed him out. We know this because Don Jr. said that they get all kinds of money from Russia. Uh, but I guarantee you, Russia is trying to game the election in Donald's favor because Donald is a useful idiot and they'd like to see him become president again. But once they realize that that's not possible, they will have no use for Donald Trump at all. Vladimir Putin and Donnie Trump will no longer be BFFs because Vladimir never liked him in the first place. He just used him to his advantage. And once there's no advantage to using Donald Trump, it won't matter to Vladimir Putin.
No, no, yeah.
And so when we get through this case, and I'm presuming that within the next 30 days we'll have an answer to probably less than 30 days. We'll have an answer to what Donald Trump owes the state of New York. And at that moment in time, we are going to see a totally different Donald Trump. Once you take his money and power away from him, there ain't much left. He's a shell. And that will make him an easier target for these criminal trials coming up.
You know, um, it, it's a shame because I'm not a big fan of Melania Trump.
No, neither am I.
And but he had I wish he had a wife who stuck by him, and
Well, how could you
you
stick
know
by a guy who doesn't stick by anybody else? I mean, he expects loyalty, but he offers no loyalty in exchange. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
eventually, when he becomes weaker and has no money, people are going to step away from him because there's nothing to gain by being uh, sidled up to Donald Trump. And Melania is probably at that point already. She's trying to trying to gather up as much money as she can get before he's broken in the who's now.
he if he was as smart as he thought he was, he would know how to uh, be a leader and know how to gain loyalty and stuff. He doesn't.
No, he's not a leader at all. He's a like you say, he's a bully, he's a dictator. And that's well and good when you have your own business and people have to kowtow to you. But he took his strategy to a level it can't work because he isn't all powerful. He likes us to believe that, and his fans will like us to believe that he's the second coming of Christ or some superhero. But he's quickly showing that he's neither of those things, not even close. And I think even some of his base are going, "What the fuck?" I'm a little tired of Don too because he keeps saying these things, but he never comes through. At some point, his even his base is going to walk away from him because they have nothing left to gain.
He, those who's are starting to walk away, you got the Maya, but it's also a little little too late.
Yeah, yeah. What are you thinking about this whole situation with the House of Representatives? They decide that they want to try to impeach Joe Biden, but we've also got to decide what to do with the budget because on January 15th, the country will close down if they don't have some continuing resolution or the budget or the
You
spending
know that
plans.
that pisses me off. That's bullshit. You're the fucking United States government, for Christ's sake. Don't close down over. You're supposed to stay open, not close down over a stupid ass. You know, let me show you something.
Keep your clothes
When
on.
they close down, what?
You said you wanted to show me something. I said, keep your clothes
No,
on.
no.
This is a
Let me
family
tell you
show.
something. When they close down, people don't get paid. Yet those politicians still get paid.
Well,
How is it fair that those employees of the government don't get paid, yet those politicians continue to get paid?
right, right. Well, here's the
Why
thing.
don't we stop paying them?
Well, yeah, we should definitely stop paying them because they aren't doing a job. My point is they've got they're talking about this impeachment. They've got the budget. They've got Ukraine. They've got Israel. They've got other issues. They haven't done anything to get closer to that. And guess what? Today's their last day. After today, they got 3 weeks off for the holidays. So we're now going to be a week away from a shutdown before they even fucking come back and work. They haven't done anything up to this point. What are they taking a vacation from? I don't get it.
You you stay your ass stand there, whether or not until you get the resolution passed.
Right, right. You work till you're done.
That's what you're paid to do.
Well, you understand this budget situation is a pretty easy deal. For decades and decades, it's always been pretty easy. It's just cut and dried. Of course, the United States isn't going to default. Some bipartisan agreement, some arguing here and there, but it always gets set up and we never shut down. I mean, we've shut down in the past a couple times more recently, but it up until recently, it's been a pretty easy thing. The reason we're in this situation, there's only one reason for it, and that is because of the Republicans. They want to play these fucking games, unnecessary games, and they leave us in the lurch when they do this. It doesn't hurt them, like you said. They still get paid, but they're willing to sacrifice the uh, the people and the country just to get their point across. And therein lies the problem. These people are egomaniacs. They don't give a fuck about anybody else when crazy enough, that's their fucking job.
That's why I think it would benefit the country to stop voting for these assholes.
Yeah, definitely. I think they will.
And, and if you don't vote for them and cut them off at the knee, so to speak,
Right.
and show them a bit of humility.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. For those folks that are worried about January 15th coming and the country shutting down, that's not going to happen because the Republicans can control whether it shuts down or not. And if it shuts down, the Republicans are the only ones that lose. They get the blame, they get the heat, they get everybody up in their shit. So it's not going to close. Well, they'll do what they always do. They'll run it down to the last minute, the last day, and they'll come up with a continuing resolution, give them another 3 months, and then do nothing and just keep fucking around. I mean, that's the problem uh, the Republicans in the House have, and this is why they can't win in 2024, is because once you gave them the opportunity, the majority, the power, they have done nothing with it. They can't stand up and say, "Well, we took care of Americans or America during our tenure, so keep us in power." Nobody's going to vote for that because they did nothing but hurt the country.
But they'll convince people that they did.
Not any bright people. They might convince the
No, not
base.
in about people.
They might convince
But
the base, but the base only makes up 25-30% of the country at best. And that ain't enough to win elections.
well,
See, that's why I don't understand why people are so concerned. The support for Donald Trump is not there. A lot of people think, well, in 2020 he got 74 million votes, so 74 million people support Donald Trump. That's not true. The base supports Donald Trump regardless of what he says or does. The other people that voted for him in 2020 were just Republicans who always vote Republican regardless of who's running. These people are now getting a good look at what Donald Trump is and has done, and those people are going to have to look at it differently. Either they don't vote or they'll vote another way. But they're not going to vote for Donald Trump because they're not going to vote for the demise of the United States of America.
what made Donald Trump was the fact that what what elected Donald Trump last time was the electoral college.
In 2016, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't the fact that he was popular. It was the electoral college that voted him in.
Right. Right. You think they should do away with the electoral college?
Personally, yeah.
Yeah, I do too. I think it's worn out. It's welcome.
Because that outweighs everything else. If you have so many, if you're popular, the electoral college can just come in and outvote the people.
Well, and I think there's a lot of antiquated things in our government that need to go by the wayside, like this, like the electoral college and like the filibuster. I don't know why anybody thinks the filibuster is any good. All it does is cause our Congress to not make a decision.
Yeah, I never understood that, to be honest with you.
Now, it's funny. you have to have 60 senators to vote a certain way in order for it to pass. Well, that's just the opposite of democracy. I mean, one vote should be enough to change it. And I know that the Democrats are worried that, well, if the Republicans get power, then they get to pass a lot of stuff. Well, that's just the way it is. Make sure the Republicans don't get reelected. It's got to be fair for both sides. And the filibuster, like the Electoral College, is just a way to obstruct a winner in a contest.
That's
And
what I always thought. I just thought it was a way to obstruct just
yeah,
bunch of bullshit.
yeah, I mean, absolutely. When Donald Trump was impeached the second time, you have to go to the Senate to convict him and get him kicked out. Uh, and the Democrats needed 60 votes to kick him out, which means they needed I don't know how many they needed. I can't remember what the split was, but the fact is you had 12 or 13 Republicans vote to kick Donald Trump out, and it wasn't quite enough. So Donnie got to stay. It's not like he was totally exonerated like he would try to tell you. It's just he slipped by because not enough Republicans had common sense and decency to do the right thing. And had they done the right thing, we wouldn't be in this fucking mess right now.
Mm, exactly.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing how much damage the Republican Party has done to our Congress and to this country, and how it's impacted uh, all of us. In spite of that, though, and I'm not a huge Joe Biden fan, but I give him credit for doing as much as he's done since he's been president. Um, we get people talking about the economy all the time. The Republicans are now starting to back off the economy a little bit because they've got nothing to stand on. Unemployment is at a 50-year low. Manufacturing is up. GDP is up. Wages are up. Um, we've got gas prices going down. Hell, yesterday I bought gas for $2.79 a gallon. They were yelling about Joe Biden raising the gas prices. Well, I got news for you, bitches. He just dropped the prices. We know presidents don't have any bearing on gas prices, but if you're going to blame them one way, you better give them credit the other way. And lastly, um, we've got the Fed now coming out and saying they're going to probably be lowering interest rates, which is going to improve the economy, improve house sales and car sales and such. And guess what? The Dow Jones is at its highest level ever right now, in spite of the fact that Donald Trump says that he had the greatest stock market ever. When he left, there was 30,900 points on the Dow Jones. Right now, there's 37,000. Never a time in history has it been that high.
You know, it, I don't drive
Yeah,
because of well, first I don't drive for many reasons. I used to at one time,
yeah,
but uh, I live in Michigan now, and the snow. I don't drive because of the snow.
yeah.
And second, my license was revoked because of my health.
Your, your disability. Yeah,
Yeah. So, but so I don't know anything about gas prices,
right.
but I, I, I am a big believer in renewable energy and clean energy.
Oh, wait a minute, Dan. Wait a minute, Dan. You made a contradictory statement here. You said you're big on renewable energy,
I,
but
I'm sorry.
no, 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 no. Wait. But earlier you said you were Republicans. Republicans don't like Dan. I'm going to tell you something here. You're not really a Republican.
Why? Why you say that?
Well, because Republicans aren't into renewable energy. They're into fucking coal and oil. That renewable energy shit is a hoax, according to them.
Oh, that's what they have you believe, but
Right.
no, 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 no. I'm big on the environment. I'm big on climate change and stuff.
Well, yeah. I mean, look at me right now. You live in Michigan, you get snow, you get weather similar to what we
Uh-huh.
get in Minnesota. I'm sitting in Minnesota right now, and it's December 15th. There is no snow on the ground, zero snow on the ground here in Minnesota that I see anyway. And it's above 40. That's crazy in this state. I mean, by now we could have 3, 4 feet of snow and sub-zero temperatures, but it's beautiful here right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, if there's no snow except on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, yeah. People say to me, "Well, don't you like the winter? You could ice skate or ski or snowboard or ice fish." I don't do any of that shit. You know why I don't do that shit? Because it's cold out there when you can do that shit. I don't like doing shit in the cold.
So I hate the cold.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's there's definitely climate issues out there, and that has to be addressed. And unfortunately, our Republican friends just refuse to. I mean, they ignore it, and then they also talk shit about it as if it's just some kind of conspiracy theory, which is ironic from people who live their lives on conspiracy theories.
They have what I like to call the ostrich syndrome.
Yeah, head in the sand.
Yeah, and hope it goes away. But it's not going to go away.
Yeah, you think you would have learned a lesson with COVID because they did the same thing. Well, if we just don't talk about it, it'll go away. Well, it went away kind of after 1 million people died. So, out of complete negligence,
I,
the
I'm
Republican
all
Party.
about, I'm sorry about that. I'm all about facing the problem head on,
Yeah, you got to.
you know, tackling the situation. And, I'm not your normal Republican, I guess.
I just don't think you're a Republican, Dan. I think you're better than that. You got to give yourself credit. You don't act like or talk like a Republican. I don't know where the fuck you came from or why you think you're a Republican, but you're not a goddamn Republican. Maybe a libertarian, but not a Republican.
Oh God, don't feel that. Libertarians broke up from the uh, Republican Party.
Yeah.
My best friend of 25 years was Republican, and now he's libertarian.
Probably because he's embarrassed to be a Republican.
Probably.
Yeah, I don't want to be that. My question is, why do we have to join clubs at all? Why do I have to identify as a Democrat or Republican? I don't like any of those motherfuckers. I'm for the people. And until the parties are for the people, I'm against them.
I, you know, I I'm now a Bernie Sanders fan. I would never like Bernie Sanders back in my youth, but I like Bernie Sanders now.
Yeah, no, I do too. I mean, he's like Biden and Trump. He's too old. Um, I wouldn't be surprised if this country heads more the way of Bernie Sanders by virtue of all the young people coming up and voting. We have a much different mindset with all these younger folks. And I think they're more liberal and I think they're more decent, which is contrary to anything that's Republican.
Or you know what you would if I have to classify myself as this nowadays, it would probably be more independent.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess you would call me independent, but I don't even want to be an independent because I see that as a club too. I'm just me. I vote for who I think is decent and best. And I don't want to be in a club or a party. They all have their issues. I mean, once we get the Republicans eradicated from the scene, then we need to start working on the Democrats because they got problems too.
Oh yeah, I'm a, they have their own problems. They're not perfect.
No, hell no. Hell no. They could have codified Roe v. Wade years ago and they chose to be lazy and do something else. And that's unforgivable given the way it worked out. Well, Dan, I'm going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for coming on and talking and taking my shit.
Oh, thank you for having me.
No, no problem at all. The folks listening, I want to thank you for taking time to listen. I hope you have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow. And again, Ed will be on the show tomorrow. So join us then.